You've seen gas stations in movies, but this is the real, unfiltered night shift in Texas. From strange rules to wild encounters. Here's what really happens after midnight. The night air out here smells like asphalt, diesel, and a little bit of loneliness. I've been working the overnight shift at a 24/7 gas station on the outskirts of a small Texas town for just over 6 months. You'd think it would be boring, just me, a coffee machine that hisses like it's possessed, and the occasional drunk cowboy rolling through after closing time. But it's not boring. Not at all. It's wild. I mean that literally. There's a rule book they gave me on day one, tattered, hand-scrawled, and duct-taped together. Most of it's practical stuff. Keep the coffee fresh, check the pump logs, never let the trash cans overflow. But then there are the other rules. The ones that don't make any damn sense. Like rule number 7. If the man with the silver sedan asks for premium after 3:03 a.m., don't look him in the eyes. Or rule number 11. Don't acknowledge the dog with human teeth, no matter how loudly it barks. At first, I thought it was hazing, some weird local prank. But then, things started to happen. Things I couldn't explain. My name's Jesse, by the way. I'm 27, single, and I took this job after burning out from a corporate gig in Dallas. I wanted something quieter, easier, slower. But this job has its own kind of speed. It's not the rush of deadlines or phone calls. It's the constant thrum of unpredictability, like standing in the middle of nowhere while the wind whispers your name. My first week here, I met Ed. He's the manager. Mid-60s, retired Army, big mustache, small talker. He showed me the ropes without saying much. And he's always here at exactly 5:59 a.m., even though his shift starts at 6 o'clock. Every single morning. You keep your head on straight, he told me once, watching me with those glassy blue eyes. And don't try to understand the weird stuff. Just follow the rules. At the time, I laughed. I'm not laughing anymore. Let me tell you about a night last week. It started normal. Quiet hum of the AC, buzzing neon sign out front, the occasional cricket chirping through the cracked windows. A lifted truck rolled in around 12:45 a.m. Big, loud, dusty, standard fare. A guy stepped out. He was tall, maybe 6'4", wearing a cowboy hat too clean for someone driving that kind of truck. He never said a word, just walked into the station, grabbed a Coke, and dropped exact change on the counter without meeting my eyes. It wasn't until he turned to leave that I noticed his boots. They weren't touching the floor, not floating exactly, but just slightly above the tiles. A hair's width. I blinked, thought maybe I was tired. But the Coke bottle he opened hissed like it was boiling, and when I stepped out to check his truck after he left, it was gone. Not just driven off, I mean gone. Not a trace. No tire marks. No engine rumble disappearing down the road. Just silence. That night, I opened the rule book. Rule number 3. If someone comes in wearing snakeskin boots and doesn't speak, wait 43 seconds after they leave before moving. Trust us. 43 seconds. That number stuck with me. Random and deliberate at the same time. That's when I realized the rule book wasn't a joke. The gas station itself is old. Built in the late 70s, I think. One main building with flickering fluorescent lights, 2 pump islands, and a rust-stained bathroom out back that nobody should ever use unless they've truly run out of options. I clean it because I have to, not because I wanna. The walls in there seem to sweat, even in winter. There's a payphone on the side of the building. It doesn't work, not for calls anyway, but it rings. Only after 2 a.m. I've picked it up twice. The first time, all I heard was static and a low hum, like someone breathing underwater. The second time, a woman whispered something that chilled me. She said my name, my full name. Then she asked, "Do you still have the scar behind your left ear?" I never told anyone about that scar. Now I don't answer the phone. Last night was different. Last night, something changed. It was around 1:30 a.m. when the lights outside the station blinked 3 times in rapid succession. That's usually when something off is about to happen. I was behind the counter eating chili cheese Fritos and watching a fly bounce against the humming snack machine when I heard the bell over the front door chime. A little girl walked in, maybe 7 years old, long blonde hair, pajamas with cartoon cows on them, and no shoes. She wasn't crying, wasn't scared, just calm, too calm. "Can I use your bathroom?" she asked. I froze. See, there's an unspoken rule I've learned here, maybe the most important one. If someone doesn't belong, don't invite them in. And this girl, she didn't belong. Not because she was young or barefoot, but because her reflection in the glass door didn't move when she did. It just stood there, staring. "The bathroom's out back," I said carefully. "Not inside." She looked disappointed. Not sad, just like I told her something inconvenient. Then she turned and walked out. As she passed through the door, her reflection vanished. Not faded, vanished. I rushed to the door, heart hammering, but the lot outside was empty. No footprints. No sign of a child wandering barefoot in the gravel. Just the wind pushing dust across the pavement and the faint whine of coyotes in the distance. I sat behind the counter for the next hour, gripping the rule book like a Bible. I thumbed through the pages, looking for anything about children. I found it near the back, scribbled in red ink that looked suspiciously like dried blood. If a barefoot child asks for the bathroom between 1 and 2 a.m., do not let them inside. Tell them to use the one out back. If they persist, leave the station and wait 5 minutes. Whatever you do, do not let them enter the back room. The back room is where we keep the mop bucket and extra stock. I've only been in there a few times, but after reading that, I locked it. Then I put a chair in front of the door, just in case. You might be wondering why I still work here, why I haven't quit and run screaming into the desert like a sane person. The answer is simple. I've tried. 3 weeks ago, I handed Ed my keys and told him I couldn't do this anymore. He nodded, didn't argue, just said, "All right. But if the lights in your apartment go out at exactly 3:13 a.m., don't open the front door. Not for anyone." I thought he was joking. That night, at 3:13 a.m. sharp, every light in my apartment flickered off. My phone battery drained in seconds, and someone knocked on the door. 3 times. Then again, louder, closer. I didn't open it, and I came back to work the next night. Something about this place, this job, it doesn't let you leave so easily. There's a pull, like gravity, but darker. It knows you once you've been here. It sees you. Every shift, I find myself watching the security monitors like they're oracles. I scan the pumps, the shadows, the dark stretch of highway beyond the reach of the station lights. Waiting, wondering, and sometimes I catch glimpses, reflections that shouldn't be there, figures standing motionless in the distance, vehicles that loop back around every 37 minutes without ever stopping. Once, a man came in with 2 shadows. One of them moved before he did. I've learned to stop asking questions, to follow the rules, to keep my head down and my eyes sharp. Because out here, after midnight, reality bends, and the gas station becomes something else entirely. Something alive. There's something unnatural about silence at 3 a.m. It isn't peaceful. It's too perfect, like the world is holding its breath, waiting for something to go wrong. Out here, beneath the pale blue hum of the gas station's floodlights, that silence has a weight. You feel it on your skin, in your lungs, like the air doesn't want to be breathed. I learned early on that everything changes after midnight. It's not just the customers. Time seems to bend. Sounds echo longer. The shadows stretch farther than they should. And sometimes you start to wonder if you're really alone behind that counter. Take last Thursday night, for example. I was restocking the coolers when the front door chimed. It was exactly 2:08 a.m. The timing stuck with me because I just glanced at the clock. A man stepped in wearing a dirty yellow raincoat, even though it hadn't rained in days. He had dark glasses on, thick and round, and I swear he didn't blink once. He walked straight to the snack aisle, grabbed a single bag of plain chips, and brought them to the counter. No drink, no words. Just dropped the bag and stared at me behind those glasses. I rang him up and said, $2.50. He didn't move. Cash or card? I asked. Still nothing. The silence stretched. I could hear the humming of the lights, the creak of the cooling fans, even the ticking of the wall clock. Then he leaned in and whispered, "You saw her, didn't you? The little girl, in the cow pajamas." My hands froze. My mouth went dry. Before I could respond, he reached into his coat and pulled out a crumpled $5 bill. His hand were covered in what looked like oil, slick, dark, and sticky. I didn't want to touch it, but I took the money and handed him the change without a word. As he turned to leave, he said one last thing without looking back. "She knocks 3 times, then she comes in through the 4th. I didn't sleep after my shift. I just sat in my car until the sun came up, staring at the door of the gas station and counting 1, 2, 3 for wondering what the hell that meant. That same night, I broke a rule. Not on purpose. I just forgot. There's a pump out back. Pump 3. It doesn't work. At least not for fuel. The hose is dry. The keypad is dead. And the handle is rusted shut. But it's listed in the rule book with bold letters. Never open pump 3's maintenance hatch after 2 a.m. Never. Now, here's the thing. I didn't even know there was a maintenance hatch. I wasn't curious. But that night, after the guy in the raincoat left, I saw something. On the security monitor, pump 3 lit up. Not like a flicker, like someone activated it. The screen came on. The keypad glowed. Numbers began flashing across the display, even though no one was out there. 3:13. 3:13. 3:13. Over and over. I grabbed the keys and stepped outside. I should have stayed put. But sometimes, when things feel too strange, you do something stupid just to prove to yourself that you're still in control. Well, I got to pump 3. The keypad screen was blank again. The whole unit looked dead. But then I saw it. The maintenance hatch. A small, square door near the base, nearly hidden under grime and dried mud. It had a tiny silver latch. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe I thought it would clear up the weirdness. Maybe I thought I'd find a dead raccoon messing with the wires. I opened it, and I saw an eye staring back at me. Not a mechanical part, not a flashlight beam. A real, human-looking eye. Wet, bloodshot, and blinking. I jumped back so hard I dropped the keys. The hatch slammed shut on its own, hard enough to rattle the pump casing. The eye was gone. I didn't tell Ed the next morning. I didn't tell anyone. I just updated the log like nothing happened. But I did mark the hatch with red paint. Just a line. A warning to myself. Because some part of me knows I'll be tempted to open it again. That's how this place works. It doesn't just scare you. It pulls at you. The next night was worse. Around 3:45 a.m., a silver sedan pulled into the lot. I watched it roll up from the highway, slow, deliberate, too quiet for a car that size. It stopped to pump too. The driver didn't get out. I waited. Sometimes people sit for a while, make a phone call, eat, whatever. But the windows were tinted pitch black. I couldn't even see his silhouette. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. Then the horn honked. 3 times. Sharp and loud. I jumped. It echoed across the empty lot like a scream. And then the door opened. A man stepped out, dressed in a gray suit and red tie. Clean shaven. Perfect posture. But his face, it was smooth. Too smooth. No lines. No expression. Just eyes and a mouth that looked painted on. He didn't move like a person. It was more like a puppet being tugged along invisible strings. He walked up to the door. I instinctively stepped back from the counter. He didn't enter. He just stood there, watching me through the glass. I remembered rule number 7. If the man with the silver sedan asks for premium after 3:03 a.m., don't look him in the eyes. But he wasn't speaking, just watching. I held his gaze for half a second, maybe less. And in that moment, I heard something, a voice, not out loud, but in my head, a whisper pressed against the back of my skull. We remember you. Then he smiled. It was the only expression his face made, and it split his face too wide, stretching up toward his ears like someone slicing a melon. I dropped behind the counter and stayed there until the sun came up. When I finally peeked outside, the sedan was gone. No tire marks, no movement, just the distant hiss of the desert wind. Later that morning, Ed walked in like nothing happened. I was pale, sweating, shaking. You looked him in the eye, didn't you? He asked, without any judgment. Just certainty. I nodded. He'll be back, Ed said. Next time, don't be here when he is. I asked what happens if I am. He didn't answer. I've also learned there's a code to the chaos. It's not random. Everything that happens out here follows patterns. The phone rings twice before something knocks on the back door. The crickets go silent 5 seconds before a stranger walks in. If I see the tumbleweeds stop moving, I turn off the lights and hide. Always. Last night, a drunk guy wandered in just after 2 a.m. He reeked of tequila and motor oil, kept slurring something about needing to feed it. I was about to ask what he meant when he walked straight past the snacks, pushed open the backroom door, and shut it behind him. That door is supposed to be locked. I hadn't unlocked it. I know I hadn't. I rushed after him, heart pounding, ready to drag him out before he broke something, or saw something he wasn't supposed to. But the room was empty. No man, no smell. Nothing moved except the mop bucket slowly spinning in place, as if someone had just let go of it. I shut the door, locked it, didn't breathe right for the rest of the shift. The scariest part? When I checked the security footage later, the man wasn't on it. You can see the door open. You can see it close. But the space between, empty. Every night, this place peels back another layer of reality. It shows you things, dares you to question them. But the rule book says not to. Rule number 14. Do not investigate the impossible. Observe, record, endure. I used to think horror was all jump scares and creepy music. But real horror? It's quiet. It's a shadow that knows your name. It's a rule you forgot to follow. It's a face that doesn't move when it should, and a reflection that moves when it shouldn't. I'm starting to believe this station isn't a building. It's a threshold, a kind of living, breathing thing that sits on the border between what we know and what we shouldn't. And each night, it's dragging me closer to that edge. There's a kind of loneliness that only comes from fluorescent lights and wide, empty highways at 3 a.m. But it's not the kind of loneliness you escape by talking to someone. Not here. Because the people who show up after midnight at my gas station, they're not always looking for conversation. Some of them just want a warm cup of coffee and a place to rest their eyes. Others want something stranger, and some aren't people at all. But every one of them has their place in the night. There's Buddy. That's not his real name. I don't think he's ever told me what it is. He comes in around 4:17 a.m. every Tuesday and Friday, always wearing the same overalls, the same beat-up straw hat, and always humming the same tune. It's an old gospel song, but he sings it off-key and just loud enough to set your teeth on edge. He never buys anything. Just walks up and down the aisles like he's searching for something that isn't there. The rule book has a page about him. I found it after his third visit. If the man in the straw hat comes and humming a hymn, don't speak to him first. Let him ask the question. Say yes. Always say yes. The first time he asked, it was simple. You got any red licorice? I said yes, even though I didn't. He smiled, nodded, and walked out. The second time, he asked, you ever seen what crawls under the pumps when the moon goes red? I said yes again. I lied, and he smiled again, wider this time, almost like he knew I was lying. But he hasn't asked me anything since, but he still walks the aisles, still hums that broken tune, and when he leaves, the security footage always skips exactly 10 seconds, right as he passes the door. Then there's Denise. She's one of the regulars I actually look forward to. Early 60s, chain smoker, eyes like someone who's seen war, even if it wasn't a uniform. She drives a dusty old Buick and always comes in for coffee and scratch-offs. At first glance, she's just another worn-out soul drifting through the night. But Denise is sharper than she lets on. She told me once, this place ain't just a gas station, kid. It's a wound in the world. Bleeds weird things into our side of it. I asked her what that meant. She took a drag off her cigarette, blew out the smoke in a slow stream, and said, you'll see. Everyone does, eventually. I believe her, not just because of what I've seen, but because she knew things she shouldn't. Like when the storm hit 2 weeks ago, Denise came in early, said I should move the trash cans inside and unplug the coffee machine. Lightning's gonna try and talk through it, she said. Sure enough, just after 2:30 a.m., a bull hit the pole across the lot. The lights blew out, and for a full 30 seconds, the coffee machine whispered static that sounded like words. I couldn't understand them, but I felt them deep in my chest, like they were meant for me. Denise just sipped her coffee and scratched another ticket. One night, she pointed out a guy sitting on the curb outside the station. You see that? She asked. I looked. He was tall, thin, dressed in what looked like hospital scrubs. Pale, very still. I'd assumed he was just another drifter, maybe someone trying to sober up under the streetlights. He's not breathing, she said. She was right. He wasn't. And when I blinked, he was gone. Just an empty curb. Denise left without saying goodbye that night. She doesn't always. And I've learned not to take it personally. Some nights, you leave quietly so the darkness doesn't follow. We also get a guy everyone calls Preacher. He wears a black suit, no tie, and a white collar that's always perfectly clean. He drives a hearse with no license plate and never buys gas. Just comes in, buys a single matchbook, and walks the lot in circles. Clockwise. He doesn't speak. Not until you do. The rule book has his page too. Do not interrupt the preacher's circuit. If he speaks to you, listen carefully. His words are riddles, but some are warnings. Last time he came in, I was behind the register counting change. He walked by without a sound, grabbed a matchbook, and then stopped in front of the door. He turned and looked straight at me. When the cicadas go quiet, it's not the calm before the storm. It's the breathing in. Then he left. That night, at 2:47 a.m., the cicadas stopped chirping all at once. Not a gradual fade. Just gone. Silence dropped over the station like a shroud. And then came the scream. It came from the field behind the gas station, long, high-pitched, and full of pain. Not human, not animal, something in between. I didn't go outside. I didn't look. I just sat on the floor with my hands over my ears until it stopped. It lasted 13 minutes. We also get folks who almost seem normal. Like Marky. She's in her 20s, wears oversized hoodies and earbuds, and always buys the same thing. 2 cans of Monster, a pack of gum, and a Slim Jim. But the thing is, she only shows up when the clocks glitch. It's happened 3 times now. The first time, I looked up and saw every digital display flash the same time. 3:33. Every single one. Even my phone. Then it corrected itself. Back to 2:58. 5 minutes later, Marky walked in. Each time it happens, she seems more tired. Eyes darker. Last time, her nose was bleeding. You ever wake up somewhere and not know how you got there? She asked me. Sure, I said. When I was a kid. She nodded. Yeah, but not from sleep. I didn't know what to say. Before she left, she paused at the door and whispered, "Tell the next person who asks for maple diesel that it's not stocked here anymore. Even if they insist. Especially if they insist." I wrote that one down in the margins of the rule book. It felt important. Then there are the nights when nobody comes at all, but the door still opens. I'll be sitting there, staring at the security monitors, and the chime will go off. Door swings open. Cold air floods in. No one's there, but the motion sensors activate. The candy rack rattles. The fridge door swings closed when it hadn't been opened. And on those nights, I find footprints in the break room. Always wet. Always barefoot. Sometimes I hear breathing just behind the chip rack. I check. No one. But the bags are swaying like they were touched. The gas station has regulars, sure. But the regulars aren't always people. Some of them are habits the building itself seems to have. Like every Thursday at 3:17 a.m., the back bathroom light turns on by itself. No one's in there. The bulb is burned out. I've replaced it 3 times. Doesn't matter. It still glows. Dim, sickly, like a memory that won't die. Ed told me once, the people here, they're the friendly part. It's the quiet things you have to watch. He's right. The locals know the rules. The ones who don't, they disappear. Last month, we had a new guy named Lewis fill in for one of my nights off. He was fresh out of college, confident, thought the rule book was a joke. I warned him, told him not to ignore the red line on pump 3, told him not to answer the phone after 2. He didn't listen. When I came back the next day, Ed told me Lewis had called in sick, but I checked the logs. He never clocked out. His car was still in the lot. His name was scratched into the underside of the counter. Over and over and over. We haven't seen him since. This job changes you. You stop asking questions. You stop sleeping during the day because the dreams are worse. And you start noticing how many people out here seem off. Like maybe this town isn't just close to the edge. It is the edge of something deeper, something waiting. And through all of it, I've started feeling a shift. Like the gas station is waking up, growing curious. And I'm not just a worker anymore. I'm a piece of it. Sometimes I think it's watching me through the security monitors. Not the cameras. The screens themselves. I swear last night, one of them blinked. There are nights when everything is quiet. When no strange customers come in. when the pumps stay dark, when the wind doesn't whisper secrets through the crack in the window. Those are the worst nights of all, because when things go quiet here, it's never peace. It's anticipation. But sometimes I trick myself into believing there's comfort in the routine, that this job has some perks. I tell myself that the stillness gives me space to think, that being out here, under these humming lights, with no boss breathing down my neck and no emails to answer, offers a kind of freedom I didn't have before. It's a lie, but it's a good lie, one that's kept me sane until now. There are moments of clarity, though, tiny, unexpected epiphanies that slip in during the eye of the storm. I remember one night a few weeks ago, around 3:12 a.m., the station was silent. No cars, no customers, no freakish anomalies. Just me, a half-eaten bean burrito, and the soft crackle of the radio. I leaned against the counter, sipping old coffee, and stared at the security monitors. My own face looked back at me in black and white static. Tired, hollow-eyed, but calm. Then I noticed something. In every feed, my reflection blinked a second before I did. I turned off the monitors and sat in the dark for an hour. That was the first time I started wondering if I was changing. There's a pattern to this place, a rhythm. If you live inside it long enough, it starts to show you things, pulls memories from your head, and wraps them in the night air like smoke. You forget what's real and what's not. You forget what you came here to escape. I remember my first week. I've been trying to make sense of the rules, writing down my own observations in the back of the book, trying to map the madness like a logic puzzle. But this place doesn't like logic. One night, after a particularly quiet shift, I found a note in the rule book, one I hadn't written. It was scrawled in the margin beneath rule number 12. Stop trying to decode it. Let it teach you. I didn't show Ed. I didn't say a word. But the handwriting, it looked like mine. Only older. Scratchier. Like it had been written by a version of me years down the line. It's not just me, though. The station does something to everyone who sticks around. Even Ed, who's been here longer than anyone, isn't immune. I caught him in the back room once, standing perfectly still, staring at the empty mop bucket. I called his name 3 times before he looked up. You ever feel like it's waiting for something? He asked. I didn't answer. I think we both already knew. But despite it all, there are moments. There's a kind of sacred quiet when the station is bathed in the pale amber light from the pumps, and the cicadas hum just right, and the only sound is the low gurgle of coffee brewing. It's hypnotic, peaceful even. I've learned to observe things others might miss. The way the wind shifts before someone pulls in. The smell of copper just before the payphone rings. The sudden weight in the air that means something is near. This place sharpens you. You start to feel like prey that grew fangs just to survive. And there are lessons in that. Like the time I heard a knock on the back door. 4 taps, evenly spaced. The rule book didn't mention anything about 4 knocks. Just 3. 3 was danger. 3 was bad. So I opened it. Standing there was a man who looked almost exactly like me. Same face. Same hoodie. Same scar behind the ear. But his eyes were wrong. He smiled, and it was like watching someone else wear my skin. You're doing well, he said. Better than I did. Then he turned and walked into the field. I haven't seen him since, but sometimes I dream about him walking backward into a mirror. That encounter changed something. It made me think maybe this place isn't cursed. Maybe it's a test, or a gate, or a mirror that shows you what you're becoming. Even the regulars feel different now. Like actors in a play I'm starting to understand. Denise still comes by, chain smoking and throwing down cryptic riddles like breadcrumbs. Buddy still hums that awful hymn. But their eyes linger longer now. Their smiles stretch a little too wide. One night, Denise leaned in and whispered, "You're almost through the first layer." I didn't ask what that meant. But that same night, something broke. It started when the pumps all shut down at once. All 8 of them. Dead. The lights didn't flicker. The breakers didn't trip. They just stopped. I stepped outside to check the breakers near the back wall. As I rounded the corner, I saw it. The desert wasn't there. Where the field should have been, there was only black. Not night. Not shadow. Just nothing. Like someone had peeled back the scenery of the world and left the blank space underneath. And in that void I saw shapes. Not quite people. Not quite animals. Just long-limbed silhouettes walking across the absence like they belonged there. Like they were returning home. One of them turned toward me. I didn't see a face, but I felt eyes, deep and old and empty. Then I blinked, and the desert was back. The pumps clicked. The breakers hummed. Crickets chirped. But the silence inside me stayed. Later, I asked Ed if the station ever shifts. He nodded. Sometimes. It shows you the seams. You see 'em once, you'll start seeing more. I asked what happens if I see too many. He didn't answer. That was the night I finally stopped fighting the strange. I stopped trying to decode the rules. Stopped trying to rationalize the stories. And I started listening. Now I walk the aisles between 2 and 3 a.m., not to restock snacks, but to check for footprints in the dust. I bring offerings to the broken vending machine, nickels and crackers, and in return, it hums in odd patterns that feel like language. I stare into the mirrors just long enough to count the reflections. Most of the time, it's just me. Most of the time. And through it all, I've found one real comfort. Connection. Strange as it sounds, I've grown close to the night shift crew. Ed, Denise, even Buddy and Marky in her own way. There's a silent camaraderie among those of us who've seen and stayed. We don't talk about it. Not directly. But we share looks, warnings, gestures, little rituals that say, "I know, and I'm still here." One night, I brought in an old Polaroid camera. I wanted to take a picture of the back room, just to see. When the film developed, it wasn't a mop bucket or shelves that came out. It was a staircase, spiraling downward, made of stone and bone, lit by flickering torches. I burned the photo, but sometimes I wonder if that staircase is still there, waiting for someone to step through. Maybe that's the real perk of the job. Not the solitude, not the quiet, but the understanding that we're standing on a thin layer of normal, and there are cracks beneath our feet. The station teaches you how to see them, and how to walk the line. It's not a job anymore. It's a transformation. And the next shift might be the one where everything changes for good. The last shift started like any other. The coffee was burning. The radio crackled static. And the shadows outside stretched a little too long under the floodlights. I clocked in at midnight sharp, same as always, and pretended I wasn't watching the clock tick toward 3:13 a.m. I've been working here long enough to know the patterns, the signs, the breathing rhythm of this place. But lately, something's been different. Like the station itself was getting ready for something. Not a prank, not a bad customer, but something final. The stillness felt heavier. The neon lights buzzed louder. Even Ed had been more distant, more cautious. The last time I saw him, he said something that's haunted me every night since. "You're almost at the center, Jesse. Once you're in it, you don't come back the same, if you come back at all." I asked him what that meant, but he just looked away and muttered, "Some doors open inward." I didn't see him again after that. That night, around 2:46 a.m., I was restocking the cooler when the hum in the air changed pitch. It wasn't a power surge. It wasn't interference. It was intentional. The sound felt focused, like it was watching me. And then, all 8 pumps activated at once. Every digital display lit up with the same number, 999. I ran to the front, half expecting a fleet of trucks to be pulling in, but the lot was empty. The pumps hissed, spurted vapor, and flickered, and then they stopped. Total silence. The radio clicked, and a voice came through the speaker. Not a DJ, not a broadcast, but a slow, distorted whisper. "Come to the back room. Bring the book." I froze. It had been weeks since I opened the back room. The door was still chained shut from the inside. I'd kept it that way after the night the drunk vanished in there. But the voice didn't ask. It commanded. So I grabbed the rule book, more of a journal now, with pages falling out and margins filled with my own notes, and walked to the door. The chain was gone. The knob turned easily. The room was dark, but not pitch black. The light inside wasn't fluorescent. It was something older, orange and flickering like candlelight. But there were no candles, no bulbs, just the feeling of light radiating from the walls themselves. And the room was bigger, much bigger. No mop bucket, no shelves, no cardboard boxes, just a spiraling stone staircase leading down. I knew the moment I stepped in that this was it. The choice, the test, the threshold between everything I thought I understood and whatever lay beneath. I thought about leaving, running, getting in my car, and never looking back. But when I turned around, the door was gone, replaced by solid wall. So I went down. Each step echoed like a heartbeat. The deeper I descended, the colder the air became. But it wasn't the kind of cold you feel on your skin. It was inside me, in my thoughts, in my memories. Carvings lined the walls, symbols I didn't recognize, languages I didn't speak, and eyes. Hundreds of eyes. Watching. Always watching. Finally, I reached a chamber at the bottom. The stone walls gave way to something that looked almost organic, wet, pulsating, breathing like lungs. In the center of the room stood a pedestal. On it, a mirror. Not a normal mirror. This one didn't reflect me. It showed the gas station, my gas station, only it was rotted, abandoned, windows smashed, pumps rusted and bleeding black fluid. And standing behind the counter was a version of me, taller, thinner, with hollow eyes and a grin that didn't move. He waved. I turned away, and that's when the figure appeared. Not a man, not quite a creature, something ancient. Its form shimmered between shapes, sometimes a customer, sometimes a crow, sometimes just static. But its voice was steady. "You've served well," it said. "You've obeyed the rules. You've endured." I clutched the book to my chest. "What is this place?" "A station," it said. "A beacon. A sieve. It filters. Those who survive become its stewards. Those who don't feed it." I felt my stomach drop. "Feed it. You've seen them," it said. "The ones who broke the rules. The ones who asked the wrong questions. They didn't vanish. They became part of the system." I thought of Lewis, of the man in the raincoat, of the girl with the cow pajamas. "Why me?" I asked. "Because you listened," it said. "Because you endured. Because you didn't run." Then it raised one hand, or what could be called a hand, and pointed to the mirror. "You may take your place, or you may leave, but the rules will follow you." I stared at the two paths, the spiraling staircase back to the surface, or the mirror, the warped, rotted version of what I thought I knew. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't even a choice in the way most people understand choice. It was truth. Stay, and become part of the gas station, one with its rules. A protector, a prisoner, an interpreter. Leave and spend the rest of my life haunted by whispers, flickering lights, knocks on doors at 3:13 a.m. The station would always know me. It would always be watching. I opened the rule book. There was a new line on the last page, written in a hand that wasn't mine. If you've reached the bottom, you already chose. I stepped back from the pedestal, closed my eyes, breathed deep, and walked back up the stairs. The climb took hours, or minutes. Time didn't work right in that place. But when I finally emerged from the back room, it was morning. The sun was rising. The station looked the same, but it felt different, like the building had taken a long breath and was finally exhaling. There were customers, cars. The radio was playing old country music. The coffee pot hissed. Everything was normal, and Ed was standing behind the counter. I hadn't seen him in days. "You made it back," he said, handing me a cup of coffee. "I thought you left," I said. "I did," he replied. "Now it's your turn. You've earned some rest." I took the coffee and sat by the window, and for the first time in months, I let myself relax. Not because the horror was over, but because I understood it now. This place is wild. It's strange. It's dangerous. But it's also honest. It follows its own rules. And in a world where everything else feels fake, that's oddly comforting. There's goodness in the grind, in the quiet moments, in the act of holding your ground when everything around you is trying to unmake you. So if you're ever driving down a lonely Texas highway and you see a glowing gas station just past the edge of town, stop in. Buy a coffee. Use the bathroom if you dare. But remember the rules. And if someone knocks 3 times, don't answer.